This, we good? Just a moment as we get all our ducks in a row, Today's the 27th. Yes, it is. All right. Oh, no, that's not. Here we go. Hello, stellar people. Hello, stellar people. Okay, so, welcome. Welcome. Stellar people. It is, oh wait, we gotta change something. I'm a little out of, okay, so we gotta change this to the, let's call it the ArtStream, as it should be. ArtStream, and it's not the episode 1. I think this is episode 8. I believe it's episode 8. I'm not quite sure, but I believe it's episode 8. Okay, so, we good? I think we're good. So let's get started. Hello, stellar people. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey, and today we are going to, it has been a very good few days. It's been a very, very good few days. So today, the release date of X-Men 97 has occurred, and I'm like, yes. I'll probably go back and watch the first season before the second season starts. There's a Witcher 3 DLC coming, and I'm like, yeah. And next week there should be more info on the Wolverine game. So given all that, I was going to do this anyways, because I need to get this thing moving again. I think the last episode we did with Wolverine of the X-Men was episode 1 or 2, I believe. 1 or 2. Or 1, 2, or 3, something like that. It was an early one. I was still practicing. And I haven't made much progress on what I want to do for this Wolverine illustration. So let's recap what happened before we get into all of these notes and whatnot. But yes, this is going to be a Wolverine stream, art stream. We're going to do some sketches, some gesture stuff, maybe work one up, maybe work a couple up, I'm not sure. This will be about an hour, and let's get going. Oh, let's take this. Nope, it was all in that, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Okay, so this is my reference folder for some of the, I have been reading comics since I was, maybe in my early teens, 12, 13, 14, where I went to a B. Dalton, which I don't think exists anymore, and I found a comic book. And that comic book, that comic book was this one on the left, Uncanny X-Men, this cover. I think I got one before this. I remember the one where he was jumping out at the viewer, and I really like that cover. But this is where I actually started, where I saw it on the rack, and I was like, I have to get that, because that looks amazing. It's a Jim Lee Williams cover, just as Jim Lee was starting this run on X-Men. This was the next one I bought. And there's a gap between 258 and 261. I think this is where I started to become an actual, it's like, oh, I want more of this. So I started picking up on the regular. But it's Wolverine, it's Psylocke, and it's Jubilee as the main guys of the issues. And there were a whole bunch of X-Men characters I had no clue about, really. I had heard of them, but I wasn't really into. So Wolverine was like my entry point. Wolverine, Psylocke, and Jubilee. My entry point to the X-Men. Now, as I was growing up, I started drawing, in my sketchbook. This is some of the characters drawing I did of Wolverine when I was in college, somewhere around there. And yeah, it's rough, but I like how it came out. I also have like him in a samurai garb. I think this is what's that fighting game? Samurai Showdown. Samurai Showdown. I think this is one of the poses. And I switched out that pose for Wolverine or Logan in like a samurai thing. And another one. But yeah, I've been drawing Wolverine, X-Men, comic books, pretty much whatever. Either it's comic books or video games, animation, since I was very young. That was kind of what I did. And then, let's see. Right, there's a game coming up called The Wolverine. And when I saw, the short teaser, when I was like, what is this? And then he pops the claws and I was like, oh my God. And I remember I was with my mom at the time and she's like, what happened? What? I couldn't really explain it. I was like, oh my goodness, they're doing a thing. So since this game is coming up, I thought, why not go back to kind of how I started drawing and making, just fun illustrated stuff. So I want to focus on, let's see what I could do with Wolverine. And I plan to have a drawing, do maybe an inking, go on to watercolor, and then have it done by the time the game comes out. And I believe the game is slated for like September. I need to check that because I need to get get on the ball with this thing. And that's why we're here. So that's that. So let's talk about my process. My process is I'm an iterative, well, I think all artists are iterative. We just don't show people the steps in between, right? Art nowadays seems to come out fully formed, where it's all nice and pretty and colored. But, right, this is my process pretty much. I start with an initial sketch, which is very loose, very rough. And then that goes to the next step, which is a tighter pencil version. Right, I start to get the muscles more defined, facial features, and some, what they're wearing and all of that. And then we move on to a more, what I would call tighter pencils. Because there is no handoff, I'm not going to hand this over to an inker. The inker and all the steps is done by me. So I do the sketch, the tighter pencils, the inking, and then take that to watercolor paper and then do the watercolor. Since I don't have to hand that off, I can keep it pretty loose. So this to me is a tighter drawing, right? I could go tighter. Like I could have the clothing all worked out, shadows and all of that. But usually for myself, I'm like, okay, that's good to move on to the next stage. Everybody's process is slightly different, but that's my process. Now let me give you a professional. All right, this is Pepe Larraz on the X-Men. I think I showed this in the Pepe Larraz ArtStream fanboy thing I did on Pepe Larraz. So this is a loose, I'd say it's between a loose sketch and tighter pencils. Right? I think that's the step. Because I'm sure there's a thumbnail. Maybe this is his thumbnail. Every artist is different and they'll work up what they consider a thumbnail, is different for everyone. So I call this between a rough sketch and a tight pencil. So there's, I think, a step before this. But this is the next step, which is tighter pencils, and he's working out the lights and shadows where they're going to go, getting it prepared for. He will hand this off to a colorist, right? So he has to take that into account, that the colorists will do their magic, but they need somebody to work from. And so this is Marte. Well, I think this is also maybe a loose workup, or maybe it's Marte Gracias's colors. But I see there's warm and cools, right? And some highlights. And I think that's what this breakdown is for. There's some dark, the blacks, some midtones, some reds for where the reds will go, shadows, blues, and to offset and contrast the red, and then highlight areas. And then the full cover. You got the title, you got all the colors in place, right? Some effects on the foreground characters, because we usually break it up into foreground, middle ground, background. Usually that helps for illustrations to bring the characters in. Like we would be standing just beyond this character, right? So you're looking in on this action scene. But that's usually the artist's process. So work out what your process is if you are yourself an artist. Okay, so what else was I? So I was thinking about Wolverine, right? My first step is I usually think about notes. I have an idea and I want to get that idea out of my head and onto paper. So I usually always start with, okay, just brainstorm ideas, get the ideas out, get it on paper so then you can look at what you have and then go from there. So for my notes for Wolverine, hair, he's got that iconic hair situation going on. Facial hair, his, I don't know, I want to call it wings or whatever. That kind of mimics what his actual mask does. He's an X-Men. He's a mutant. He's been old for a very long time. He's a loner. I think of the outdoors. He's Canadian. He has adamantium metal bones, right? And this is his signature right here. Adamantium bones, metal that comes out of his forearm because they're underneath, right? And before he got the adamantium transplanted onto him, he had bone claws. And so the bone, all of his bones were covered with adamantium, and when he ejects the claws, he has 3 of them. He is kind of the he's wild human-ish type, right? Known to go into fits of rage, berserker when he fights. He's a great fighter, and he has his healing factor, right? He takes bullets, stab wounds, burns, all of that, and he can recover from that. So he's pretty much unstoppable. He's older than most. He's gruff, but he's a softie. When I was thinking of shapes for him, I think of a square shape. Very solid, right? Square, low to the ground. I don't know why. And sometimes you don't even know why certain things you think about when you think of certain characters. But sometimes they all fit as you're making a character design. So his enemies are Sabretooth. This is most famous rival / enemy. And it's a great opposite if you look at Wolverine and Sabretooth. Sabretooth is tall and blonde, muscular. Wolverine, Logan, is shorter, stockier, right? So there's a little bit of contrast there. His enemy is governments because of what they have done to him without his I wouldn't say knowledge, without his consent, right? He was bonded, he was abducted for this adamantium infusion process. Also, enemies are ninjas, robots like the Sentinels, which are enemies of all mutant kinds, and other mutants. Right, so it's almost like he and Captain America are super soldiers, about of the same. Maybe Wolverine's a little bit older, but they kind of run parallel to each other. So I thought of that. And then after I do a list of notes, then I just start sketching. And so this was what I did in the first, did I do this in the first art stream? One of the earlier art streams. So I did this. And some look better than others, but in the beginning, don't think about making it pretty. Just get your ideas out. That's all we want. We just want your ideas out of our heads onto paper. So this is like a classic rage claws pose, jumping out. This one I think is a bit too, don't quite like it. I like this one, but it's too standard, I think. And then I like this one, and this one's pretty cool. But I think I'd need like an enemy coming down this way to make this pop. I like this low to the ground, almost like the Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom, where he's, right, in the fighting game, he has this like low to the ground look. And then before he charges in the Berserker Barrage, I like that. And then sometimes I make out these, you simulate the page in a small form. This is a number of thumbnails. And then you can have things within that box as though you were composing an actual illustration. So in this one, there's like the hand of maybe Sabretooth, and this would be the foreground, this would be the background. Or this is the foreground, this is the background. One where maybe he would be fighting the Hulk, and he'd be like on top of the Hulk, slashing away, and the Hulk looks shocked and maybe more angry. Or where you just have the claws, which is iconic, and then maybe Sabretooth in the background. But you're just trying to get your ideas out of your head and onto paper. Also, when I was thinking of this, I thought about Wolverine, that his head, thinking of square shapes, right? His head is more square shaped, while say Scott Summers, Cyclops of the X-Men, the leader of the classic team, I would say. The originals, but he's still carried on. He has more of a rectangular head. Right, so I'm thinking of ways to differentiate Wolverine, Logan, from others. Right? So whatever you can think of that can make it interesting. But this is how my ideas start. Notes, and then a bunch of scribbles. All right. Is that all for this? I guess I can, let's see. Is there anything else? So this is where we're going. We're going to try to get an illustration out before September something. Let's say the mid-September. And so this is artists who have done Wolverine, whose work I enjoy. Of course, Jim Lee. I think he did this one, and this one. Who else? Sean Murphy. I like this one. Set in Japan. He's got the arrows in him and the motorcycle. Who did this, and this, I believe. So yeah, great artists doing great Wolverines. So now let's get into what we're going to. So for round two, this is what I'm calling round two. So round two, again, I make notes. Now I made these notes as I was drawing, because sometimes I think of things and then make a little note to myself. So the notes are Logan and Wolverine himself. There's a primal energy about him, right? A primal energy. So he has a human stance. I was thinking of this. These are slightly unrelated but related to me in my mind. A human stance where he has his noble, human, loyal X-Men, where he helps out. He usually trains younger people to defend themselves, and he's a protector of the weak, and that would be his human stance. But then his primal stance is before his attack, right? Like when you think about animals, before they're about to to attack, there's usually some kind of signal, and then usually humans can pick up on it, and it's like, oh, okay, I don't know what got into you right now, but I don't want any trouble, right? And we usually do the open palms, like we don't want any trouble, but you can't really bargain with animals because they're kind of gonna do what they're gonna do, especially the powerful ones like bulls, bears, and lions is what I was thinking of when I thought of animal encounters that can lead to violence in nature. And so I was on the internet looking at like the running of the bulls and how humans interact with this creature that could kill you easily. And they're like trying to negotiate with a bull, and the bull is looking at you like, I could just tear right through you. Bears and lions, right? So powerful creatures that you can't really bargain with. It's just going to do what it's going to do. And you just have to accept that thing, either get out of the way or try to take it on. So I thought of, if I wanted like this gesture right here is more in the human stance. And then I thought of, like of all of these gestures, right? Let's go to the P layer. Okay. Of all these gestures I have, my favorite, I like this head. This head's kind of cool. I did that real quick. This one right here. All right, this is the one I think is the best of this whole page, because this is where I think it started to click for me of kind of what, I'm not sure I'll go for it, but I like this image right here. All right, it's a slightly hunched. Right, it feels more primal to me than an upstanding hero pose. Right, so hero pose, like a beast pose, and I like that. I really, really like this one. So I don't know if I'll make it in the illustration, but I like this because in the illustration you're trying to attract the viewer to stop and look at it, and sometimes you have to balance what you want with sexiness. Right? Because again, you're trying to sell a product. You're trying to sell the illustration to an audience to make them stop and to make them pick up. If it's a comic book, if it's an illustration, if it's an advertisement, to stop, think about it, and then take action of some sort, either buying or whatnot. And sometimes there are images that you make that aren't quite sexy. It's unfortunate, but sometimes that's just how life works. So I like this one myself, but sometimes you got to go with the sexy pose. Right? That's the only way I can kind of define it myself, as the sexy pose. But also I'm thinking about, how does Wolverine fight? He's in the comic books, I think officially he's something like 5'3", which is fairly short. But for me, I'm thinking, okay, what would suit his fighting style? He has claws, so that would make him devastating in a right, whether armed or unarmed. He could chop pretty much anything in half. Right? And given his primal rage and berserker tendency, that would make him devastating as a fighter. So I don't think he would have a proper fighting style. So let's give, like I was talking about, Steve Rogers, Captain America, right? I figure he would have a square jaw, right, and a thicker neck, and I figure his body type would be the classic hero body type, where he's got the wide shoulders, tapered waist, and then long legs, and he'd always have like a wider stance, right? And maybe his, that sort of Superman hands on hips. Right? This is what I think of when I think of Captain America or Superman. They both come from like the same hero type, right? But for Wolverine, I think he would have the two stances, right? When he's short. I'm going to do this quicker than that. But he'd have, I think, a more thick body, right? Less tapered, more wide. So he's right, I'm thinking of that more square-ish head. Thicker arms, right, but wide. And I figure Captain America, so Cap and Wolvie, right, the difference in the two: tall, heroic, short, and then I especially think it would be like this, where he'd be a hunched sort of in primal stance, that if provoked, you would have a noticeable difference in what, like he's about to attack, and his shoulders would, right, his head would sink down below his shoulders, and right, he'd tense up sort of, so his arms would be not exactly right. So something like this. And again, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm thinking and I'm talking. Clavicle, sternum, but something like that. Where there would be a noticeable difference just before he lashes out. A tensing, if you will. Right? So heroic, primal. right? And this is just the things I think about when I think about illustrations of any type. When I think of illustrations of any type, I make my little notes, and then I think about all types of things that could make the art better. And sometimes it's a journey. Sometimes the ideas are stingy and it won't flow. I like that. So yeah, hero, primal. This is like what the X-Men and people see that like him. This is pretty much what his enemies see. The primal, I will tear you to pieces version. And so going back to, that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about all these gestures. So when I'm thinking about a fighting, Captain America would have a more all-around classic game, right? He would have boxing skills, some athleticism, right? He could square up and then take you one-on-one and be really, really successful, right? While Wolverine, I was thinking of ancient wrestling, sumo, and MMA fighters. That he has a low to the body, wide, muscular type, and that he would go into like a lower stance and then just lunge, right? Takedowns, and then if his claws are out, it's like strike, dead. And so I'm thinking about that when I'm doing the drawings. Now let's go through some of the gestures. Again, the hero pose, which is, it's good, right? It's good. But I always like to make a whole page just so I can check myself to see. Sometimes your first idea isn't your best idea. And with exploration, you kind of work out the good, the bad, the things you like, the things you don't like. So I was working top, down, left, right. And some of them, I'll just go on some of the ones that I actually like. So P for the pin. I don't like the ones where he's kind of standing. Right, and it took me a while to get to this point where I kind of found, okay, I like that. And then I tried to figure out why don't I like it. And it's that hunched, slightly ungraceful, again, primal. Right? I like that idea. So then I started looking at, ancient wrestling poses, especially sumo, where they have also a low stance, right? When they get into that low stance and they have to touch their fist to the floor before they can start, right? Before the two go at each other. So I kind of figured that was an interesting pose for Wolverine, and that he would take a low stance, especially with his claws out, before he lunges and attacks. This one's not bad, right? It's not bad, but I think we could do better. Again, that wide body. I don't think there'd be, sometimes when I draw a figure, like there's the rib cage, the shoulders, and sometimes I draw like the latissimus dorsi coming in to make a sort of hourglass coming out towards the hips, even for men. But sometimes, some men, rib cage, the deltoid, trapezius, and they're like more straight. There's some slight tapering, right? A wider body, But it depends. There are a lot of different body types in the world. And so trying to find one that suits the character and the situation. Like I do figure Wolverine is more of a wrestler's body. Shorter, whiter, lots, very big muscles. Because I figure if he has a healing factor, that to gain muscle, you kind of have to break down the muscle. And that after years of, breaking down the muscle, his body is superhuman in strength because he's gone to his absolute limits and his body has healed super fast. Right? And been tested a lot. This one's not bad. Also, I'm thinking about head placement. Sometimes I find, well, most times I find profile views of heads boring in illustrations. So I like a more 3/4, even if it's a slight 3/4. It's usually more interesting than a straight on view. So I try to take that into account. This one's not bad. This one with the a punching stance. And if the claws are out, that's pretty good. I don't like it. It's too straight on. This one's not bad, but I kind of want a front-facing pose. This one's not bad. This one I like. Although I also, in illustration or illustrations for myself, I don't like mirroring where each part of the body is doing the same thing, right? If both arms are down, I like sometimes when, or a lot of times, when the limbs are doing different things. So say one arm is up, the other's down. If there's hip tilt, he's balanced on this leg. So this leg is straight, but this leg is bent. I don't like the symmetry. And this might be a little bit too symmetrical for me. Maybe if, like this one. This is pretty good. Where this arm's up. And so he has one arm down with the claws out. This arm up with the claws out. That might be a little bit better than this one. The jumping ones, that's pretty good. But again, does he swipe or does he punch through things? Right? Like this right here, I figure. Right, this one right here is more of a swipe to cut something. But if he's preparing for a punch that would send his claws through something, whether the Hulk or some other, let's say a robot, to keep it PG. Right? And I have to take into account what would that look like. If it's a swipe, it would probably be more fluid than a fist in a position to deliver a pow. But there's a lot of choices, a lot of decisions we can make. I don't know. But this isn't bad. I might workshop this. This was not bad either. And also, I like to keep the limbs outside of the body. It makes for better silhouettes. And by silhouette is if you fill in all of the figure, can you tell what the action is? Sometimes if all the limbs are within the body, you can't quite tell what is he doing exactly. And at a glance, you like clarity so that an audience can know exactly what's going on, even at a glance. So again, I try to keep limbs sometimes outside of the body. This one's not bad. That hunched. This arm's down, forward. And maybe this arm's out. So let's select 3. And we'll work up 1 today. Oh man, that time. We'll do a little bit today, and then we'll do a little next week, because I think more on the Wolverine game will be shown next week. So we will. Okay, so what 3? And I also like to combine certain images. So I like this, So I can sometimes make a middle ground between the two. Also like this one. I gotta take this one. I gotta work up that. Let's see, one of the jumping ones, I'll take one of you. So, and you probably, or one of you. Okay, so we have some selected. Let's call it gesture. Gesture Wolvie. I forgot the eye, but layer duplicate. I always like to keep the original just in case. And I can get rid of all the rest. So the marquee. Select everything that I'm not going to use. And erase it. While keeping everything that I want. I'm trying to decide that hero one, that hero pose one. Do I want that? Yeah, I do. Yeah, we'll work up this one today. All right, we'll work up this. Since time is short, we'll take the most boring one, Command D, and we'll work this up just a little bit. Since time is running out, I said Command T. Command D. Let's get rid of all this. Command D. So select it with the lasso tool. Command T for the transform. I blow it up. Let's see, let's make that. Some adjustments. Return and Command D to deselect it. Now I could either erase a bit to take it down, or I could just change the opacity on this layer, making it lighter. P for the pen tool. Okay, my normal way of working is on top, and first we're going to do the simple shapes, right? Head is always a circle. Well, the cranium is a circle. Got the back of the skull. I figure he has a wider neck. His rib cage is an egg shape. And let's get that tilt. Shoulder tilt, hip tilt, contrapposto. We are going to do the hips as a box. The joints are circles. So we got the shoulders, we got the elbows, we got the wrist, shoulder, elbow, wrist, knees, ankles, and then to connect those, we got cylinders. Now this isn't what I do all the time. This is more or less for for the internet, because I've done this enough times that you create a shorthand as you go. But I'm trying to be more disciplined in doing my steps properly. Right, so cylinders for the feet. We got the back of the foot, the heel, if you will. We got the main part. So the arch, the toes, heel, main part, toes. And now on top of this, we do some modified muscles. It's not all the muscles, just simplified. So let's start with the trapezius. I figure let's adjust some things. I think that head is just a little bit. Command T, bring that up a little bit. And maybe rotate it just a little bit. Okay. Return. Command D. P for the pen tool. I'm using Clip Studio Paint, by the way. I should always mention that in the beginning, just to let you know what I'm using. Okay, so we have the trapezius, which I think is very developed, along with his deltoid. Let's make that side plane. Side plane to help define the form in space. The middle of his face. He's looking slightly down. So hairline, eyebrow ridge, eye line, nose line, mouth line. Side plane. The ears are between the eyebrow ridge and the nose. All right. Clavicle is the bone that goes across. So clavicle, sternum is in the center of your chest. We got the pectoralis, his pecs. Let's alter this arm. The L. Oh, no, no, no. M for the L is for Photoshop. That's how you get the lasso tool. It's M in Clip Studio Paint. Okay, Command T. We're gonna pull that out just a little bit. Okay, return. Command D. Back to the pen tool. The deltoid. His pecs. His latissimus dorsi is on the back. External obliques. That makes the glove handles. Gluteus maximus. The serratus anterior is the lightning bolt shape muscles. And we got the rectus abdominis. Upper goes to the belly button down towards the groin is the lower part. Let's make them a little bit wider. Right, we're thinking superhero proportions. Everything's a little bit more muscular, a little bit more ripply and defined. Right. The gracilis, the rectus femoris, patellar tendon, go down. The gastrocnemius is the calf. It's simple. Try to keep it simple in the beginning, where it gets more and more complex as we go along. I think he has fairly large hands. Everything for superheroes is maxed, right? He got max stats on all his muscles. So the bicep is like super huge. His triceps, again, super huge. It just tends to be what we do here in America. Right, you're not just ripped, you're super ripped. Again, I like to keep body parts away from the body so it makes a cleaner silhouette. So, gonna lasso all this. Command T, we're gonna move it out just a little bit. Actually, I should have taken the whole arm. I was gonna be smart with it. Let's do this again. Command D. I'm gonna take the whole arm. And we're gonna rotate it. Okay, Command T. Rotate it just a little bit. And bring it out. Again, I want cleaner silhouettes. Cleaner silhouettes. It's an illustration. I want punchiness. Command D. Okay. Back to the P. Pencil. The tricep on the back. You got extensors and flexors. Bicep. Again, let's move this out a little bit. This is kind of what I like about doing art in computer, is that maybe this is why I make so many mistakes, or I don't care about mistakes so much when I'm drawing digitally as compared to with pencil, because I know I can fix stuff like fairly simply instead of erasing, you know. And it's like, okay, Command D, deselect. Oh, sorry. Return, then Command D. There we go. P for the pen tool. The bicep on the front. Super big. Tricep on the back. Super big. He has well-developed muscles. His claws are extended. Right. Actually, this is a little bit off. But I figure his forearms, he's a big beefy dude. So they come out of the back of his hand. So we got and every artist is different. Some people make it look like very sharp spikes. Some look like straight blades. Some look like blades and then they go to like a point. Every artist is different in their Wolverine depictions. Does he have the mask? That's more recognizable. Alright, we're not concerned at this point too much. So, again, we're not drawing humans. I gotta remember that. It's definitely a skill, right? Once you've been drawing normal people for a while, you're like, well, a real human doesn't look like that. It's like, yep, they don't. Super ripped dudes maybe, but not. Even superheroes take it to another level. Okay. And I guess this was the stage where I would then start to find reference on, say, costume design. What is the exact look of his costume? Does it go around his jawline? Does it go like that? The color schemes, design-wise, I like the brown and gold myself particularly. Oh, the yellow one with the blue stripes on it, it's not bad. I like the brown and gold. Feels more Wolverine the animal-ish, I guess. Maybe that's why I like it. I think his shoulders are covered. But yeah, this is like the base of what we got, and then, oh man, the time. We could take it to the next step. But this is very hero pose basic for me, right? For me. Next week we'll either do more of this one, and we'll take it up to the next level, or we'll try a new one. Yeah, we'll see. But that was the Wolverine ArtStream. I think this is number 8. I really need to get it straight what these numbers are. So, I have been Trey Hodges. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. treyhodges.com. Thank you for joining me. Power to all of the creators. Keep shining, and I will see you on the next episode. Later, guys. Don't forget to save. Don't forget to save. Okay. Now I'm out. Bye.